I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, this one's going to be fun, although not really. I'm going to poke some holes here in some recent media articles, newspaper and internet articles here. As you guys know, I've advised all of you guys for many years now to be careful of this mainstream media narrative and the news and the Twitter and what you're seeing on Bloomberg and CNBC. It's all entertainment. It's mostly fear-based to make you do dumb things. Because the headline about staying the course and buying and hold, that's boring stuff. That's the only thing that will work, but it's boring. What we need is markets in free fall. The day of reckoning is coming. Investors heading for the exits. People losing their shirts. That'll get the clicks, and that's what the media is all based on. It's fear-based. Well, the media is based on three things: fear, envy, and getting you to do dumb things. Those are the three things that they base their entire narrative on, in my opinion. So I don't really enjoy doing this. Unfortunately, I don't watch any news, and I don't subscribe. The only news outlet I have is subscribed to is the Wall Street Journal. But I'm fortunate enough, I'm at a big brokerage. We have a full-time media liaison in our office that 5 days a week I get a daily email, and it's great. In there is all the news articles from TV, from radio, from the newspapers regarding Vancouver real estate, the economy, interest rates, and all that. They put it in a nice little email 5 days a week and send it to me. So I skim through this every day, and this is where I get a lot of my topics for my blog here. But, you know, I've told you guys before, I could do a blog every day, 365 days a year on some of the garbage that I read that's being spewed out here by some of these media outlets. And, you know, it's just ridiculous, some of the stuff that they put out. And I want you guys to be aware of it. I've blogged about it many times. Be careful of this stuff. Tune it out. Because it's meant to either put you into that fear cocoon. It's meant to create envy, jealousy, and just do dumb things, make dumb moves, sell your stocks or sell your house or whatever. So I'm going to go through a few, and I'm going to have to protect where I'm getting these from, because I don't want the hassle. I don't want these. They would love to go after a high-producing realtor like me, and you know, I've already had many run-ins in the past, as you guys know, with Bloomberg and some of the others here. So, but here we go. I'm going to protect the names of the innocent in a few of these, because boy, these guys look bad here. This one guy here, the first article here, this mortgage broker guy. So here's one I'm going to read. This is a major Canadian news source here. The title was "Housing Investors Heading for the Exits." So here we are, we've had 3 or 4 interest rate hikes, and I guess they're already heading to the exits, even though I've got hundreds of investor clients. I own a large portfolio myself. I haven't had one of my investor clients head for the exits because of interest rate hikes. Why would they? We're all still in a incredibly low interest rate environment. And they're investors. They've got tenants in these properties. And the rents, of course, have been skyrocketing lately here. It's a gravy train. Here's the article. At the tail end of historic bull run, Canada's housing market last year, investors came to compromise a fifth of the country's home buyers. I'm not sure if that's true. I don't think it is, but we'll see. Now there are some that are scrambling to unload properties in what some are already saying could be the most severe housing market downturn in the country's recent history. Ooh, scary. In early July, Toronto-based mortgage broker, let's call him Mr. Smith. I'm going to protect this guy's name because he's a buffoon. A client called him with exactly that dilemma. The financials on the suburban condo he had purchased as an investment property just 4 months earlier, no longer made sense. Rents could no longer cover the interest payments on the mortgage after a 6-fold jump in the central bank rate. 6-fold jump. Yeah, but interest rates are still pretty prime. Mr. Smith, I'm going to protect his name here, advised his client to sell. Put him in the mortgage 4 months ago, sell. Instead of losing money on the property each month, the Bank of Canada raised its benchmark rate another percentage point to 2.5% just a week later. Mr. Smith is bracing himself for even more calls like that. It's starting now, Mr. Smith said. Every quarter there's more bad news, more renewals, more negative cash flow. Does it make sense to hold on to this rental? I mean, this guy, this mortgage guy, he probably thinks, hey, I'm going to get some free promotion in here and tell him this little story. Here's a guy that got him into this mortgage 4 months ago. I guess he didn't advise him that, hey, mortgage rates are low, but, there's only one way to go. You could lock in for a 5-year rate now at 2.7%. I guess he put him in a variable, telling him that they're going to stay low forever. 4 months does not make a market here. Anybody that advised him to buy this condo and that interest rates are going to stay at this rate forever is, in breach of fiduciary duty, as is this guy. Nuts. Then sell it. Just dump it. So here he's bought the condo, paid the property transfer tax, paid the, may have paid GST. I don't know if it's new or not. Maybe. Doesn't say. Paid the conveyancing fees, lawyer's fees, notary fees. Now let's dump it. Let's pay $20,000 to the realtor to sell it. Another set of conveyancing fees because his mortgage payment went up $100 a month more. And it doesn't make sense and he's having to supplement it. This is not an investor, folks. This is a speculator. The mortgage guy here should be ashamed of himself. He's not looking good at all for him. I mean, anyone that's going to read this is going to say, this guy's a complete moron. 4 months, and now he's telling him to sell it. Got him into it, didn't tell him about any interest rates going up. Anyways, fake news. That's fake story. There is not thousands of investors heading for the exits. There's always going to be some weak hands, some complete morons like this guy and his mortgage broker and his realtor who sold him this property and I guess told them interest rates are never going to go up and, don't buy it for the long term. And hey, if interest rates go up, we can always sell it in 4 months. Ridiculous. It's a fake news story. And this publisher is known for these fake news stories. I'm not going to name them here, but horrible. Next story here from another major news source here. BC leads all of Canada in kicking people out of their homes. Statistics Canada recently put out results from its latest Canadian housing survey, and the findings don't reflect too well on BC. The survey looked at a variety of different attributes related to people moving over the last 5 years. And across Canada, the primary factor was the landlord. 37% was the landlord providing an eviction. So the landlord was either going to move into the property or sell it. Now, they can't evict the property if they're going to sell it. They have to wait till it's sold and then give you 2 clear months and a month's worth of rent as compensation. But it just goes on to say here, of course, this is one of the envy stories. This is meant to create anger and envy towards landlords. BC leads Canada in kicking people out of their homes. I've got news for you. If you're a tenant, if you're a renter, you do not own that home. That's not your home. That's the landlord's home, the owner of the property. You're not paying as a renter the mortgage payments. You're not paying the property taxes. You're not paying the strata fees. You're not fixing the dishwasher. You're a tenant. Nothing wrong with renting. Remember, I've always said that in the short term. I love these guys that you always used to say, oh, renting, I rent and save the difference, and renting is such a gravy train. It's not. Renting is horrible. You're living like a gypsy. If you're renting for any length of time, you're going to get crushed financially. So, BC leads Canada kicking people out. They're not your home. That's what you sign up for when you're a tenant. You're at the whim of your landlord. And yeah, a landlord can serve you notice that they're going to move in, or a family member is going to move in, or they're going to sell the property, or they're going to renovate. There's a myriad of reasons. Or they do what I do with a lot of the properties I list that are tenanted. We negotiate with the tenant. We use a mutual agreement to end tenancy. We give them a couple of months rent, 2 or 3 months. We're either going to sell it with you or without. You may as well take the money and leave. But that's what happens. That's what you sign up for when you're a tenant. But this is one of those envy ones that creates anger and envy. Of course, they love to point that towards the landlord. Next one here. Historic correction grips Canada's housing market. And it went on to, dark headline here. Historic correction grips Canada housing market. It goes on to say that first off, prices in Vancouver have fallen a whopping 1% month over month here from June to July. So I don't know if that's gripping massive historic correction yet. But it goes on to say here that the benchmark home prices, this is just a prediction by this economist here, could fall more than 12% through until early next year from the market's peak. 12% from peak in the next 12 months. That's not an historic correction by any means. And we'll see if that happens or not. Who knows? But markets go up and markets go down. That's what you sign up for when you buy a home. I've often said, if you're going to buy a house, you have to have a commitment to it. 8 to 10 years minimum. Price could go down 10 or 15% here in the next 24 months. It could also go up 10%. What I do know is after 10 years, you will be well above water and have a lot of capital gains in that home. Because you'll have chipped off a whole bunch of even if the market stays flat, you will have knocked off a whole lot of principal. But these are those dark headlines. Final one I'll leave. I don't want to drag this on too long here. This was another article that I saw. And I put this one in the category of kind of bad financial advice. And there's a lot of that out there. The media picks up on, anyone. They're quite lazy, I find. They don't want to really investigate who a top money guy is or an advisor. Instead, if someone submits something to these publications, they'll write an article. It's easy for them because they're not paying these people that write these articles anything. They get $50 an article. They're not going to go out of their way to do a whole lot of research on who they're interviewing. But this was an article that I saw in another financial publication here. It came through my major Canadian news source. An interview with a money coach, a TikToker money coach on TikTok. She looks to be probably in her mid-20s, so I don't know how much experience she has in the financial world, but she was doling out a lot of financial and retirement information for millennials. That's her specialty. And a few things that caught my eye here. She doesn't believe that young adults need to be rushing into the market. She argues that a house isn't always the great investment everyone makes it out to be due to all the expected and unexpected costs involved. There is also the risk of having to sell it at a loss. Well, not if you follow my golden rules, there isn't. Again, my golden rule is when you buy a house, you've got a commitment of 8 to 10 years minimum, hopefully a lot longer. Certainly going to be renting in the next 8 or 10 years because your money is going to be at a loss guaranteed. You're going to shell out over the next 10 years, I don't know, $250,000, $300,000 renting a one bed. That money's gone. You're not getting anything back for that. So, there's no such thing as unrealistic goals, only unrealistic timelines when it comes to finance. So you buy that house, keep it, pay down the mortgage, enjoy the home, you're going to do fantastic, certainly better than renting. It's that Tina effect. There is no alternative. Interest rates would need to get up, in my opinion, well into 9-10% before you can even start into the renting versus owning type scenarios. And even there, the renting, the tangibles of owning that I've done many blogs on, the security blanket that you have. You can access the equity. You're using leverage. The not at the whim of your landlord when you're going to get that phone call in the middle of the night to be evicted and you're giving you 2 months notice. What else did I say? She also talked about getting an emergency fund here. And this is, saving 12 months worth of income in a bank account. I don't know about this. This one is up for debate here. I'm not going to get into this too long, but geez, saving 12 months, how long is that going to take you to save after tax 1 full year of income, of your working income? That could take someone 5-6 years, especially when you're earning half of 1%, because that's where it's got to go in something safe. I'm not a big believer in that. I think, sure, you should have some money set aside a couple of months, but I think you should be putting that money into just a good safe dividend stock like a Bell Canada or a TD Bank or a Royal Bank that's going to yield you 4.5-5%. Hopefully you don't have to use that emergency fund. Save a couple of months' salary in cash. But I think your number one priority really should be buying a home. And I've always been saying that in my book and in my blog here. That should be your first step. Get out of that renter treadmill. The tough part, though, is saving for that down payment. Getting that 5, 10, 15%. If you're living in Vancouver, the Lower Mainland, you're probably going to need at least 15 or 20% conventional mortgage. But that's the tough part. Once you're in, it's smooth sailing. I'd get a little more aggressive. Saving for a year of in an emergency fund, that could take a guy 5 years. Maybe longer, because you're losing ground to inflation. You're earning less than 1%, and inflation's running at 8. That's a tough go. But I tell people too, live at home. Try and milk living at home as long as you can. But instead of spending that money on Canucks tickets and everything else, try and bank as much as you can to get that down payment to get your foot in the door on your first place. And again, it doesn't have to be a Ritz-Carlton. Start with a Motel 6, a $350,000 condo on SkyTrain in Richmond or New Westminster, and go from there. Now at least you're into the home market, home ownership. You're out of that renter treadmill. But I could go on here. I don't want to drag it on too much longer here. This money coach had some really odd stuff here. Prioritizing your emergency fund, saving 12 months. It's not a bad idea, but there's better ways to go. Homeownership should be at your number one goal. For the fear of losing money, well, you can remove all that chance of losing money if you buy the home and keep the proper holding period with it. But this is just basic stuff that I don't think I wouldn't be taking too much advice from a 25-year-old TikTok money coach. But these are the people that they get onto these media outlets because it's easy for them. If you're an aggressive TikToker or have a YouTube channel, just reach out to these stations. They don't care what your experience level is at or where you're at personally. I highly doubt this young lady is a multimillionaire. And I've often said, you should be taking your advice from multimillionaires, people that have been there and done that. Otherwise, it's like buying a car from a guy who rides a bike. What does he know about cars? He doesn't even have a driver's license. So that's it for today. I could, again, there's so many of these every day that come across my desk. Everything is doom and gloom here that you're going to see in the media. Remember that. Don't fall for it. They want to get you into that fear cocoon. They want to get you envious, angry. Ask yourself this. If you just do a little experiment, sit down, if you consume media through Twitter or TikTok or Facebook or the news, 6 o'clock news, or you read the newspaper, consume half an hour of it. Turn the TV off and then close your eyes and ask yourself, be honest, how do you feel right now? Do you feel energized? Do you feel optimistic? Do you feel inspired? No. You're going to feel angry. You're going to have fear, envy, high anxiety, worry. That's going to be left with you. Try it. This is something I did, an experiment that one of my trainers told me to do 10 years ago, and he's absolutely right. I'm in a very high stress career as a realtor at my level, selling $1 million homes, negotiating, wading through all the legal and disclosure informations and things that can go wrong with a sale. So one of the reasons why I keep a pretty good fitness regimen, I'm in a high stress career, but I love it and I enjoy it. The last thing I want to do is, voluntarily expose myself to more of this junk, more of this anxiety, more of this fear and envy and all the other things. And people do it every single day by watching the news and reading articles with these bold doom and gloom headlines. And it's not going to do you any good. If you follow me on Twitter, I've been posting, I'm not super active on Twitter, but I post a lot of this stuff on my Twitter feed. And I'll do more every now and on my Saturday blog. I'm going to pick those up again. I'll be doing some more stuff on that soon as well. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.